Her husband's family spent their wedding night mocking her clothes, her family, and the modest life she came from, laughing about it in front of 200 guests, while she stood there in her wedding dress, smiling because she didn't know what else to do. What none of them knew, not her husband, not his parents, not the coworker who couldn't keep her hands off him all night, was that the woman they were humiliating came from a bloodline they couldn't even imagine, and the deal their entire future depended on? It was hers. Hers to sign, hers to cancel. By the next morning, she did exactly that. But to understand how she got to that boardroom and what she said when she walked in, we have to go back. Back to a small apartment, a cardboard donation box, and a woman who had spent her whole life hiding the truth about who she really was. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Her name was Claire. 29 years old, soft-spoken, the kind of woman you'd pass on the street without a second glance. She lived alone in a small apartment with clean walls and careful order, the home of someone who had spent years trying to take up as little space as possible. That afternoon, she was on her knees on the rug, folding old shirts into a box for charity. One of them was a worn blue hoodie. She held it to her chest for a moment before folding it. On her nightstand sat a photograph, a much younger Claire, maybe 10 years old, standing in a hard hat next to a tall man in a work jacket, both of them grinning under the steel frame of an unfinished building. That man was her father, and the company he built from nothing, from steel, from sweat, from years of 16-hour days, had grown into one of the largest holding companies in the country. People who knew the name said it the way you'd say old money, whispered it, respected it. But almost nobody connected that name to the quiet woman folding laundry in a one-bedroom apartment. When Claire was a girl, her father used to bring her to the office. He'd walk her through the lobby, phones ringing, people moving fast, and introduce her to everyone the same way every time. "This is Claire," he'd say. "Not my daughter, not the future owner, just Claire." After they left the lobby, she overheard two visitors talking behind them. "That's his daughter, lucky girl. Won't need a personality with an inheritance like that." She was 7 years old, and she remembered every word. That night, her father sat her down. He told her something she'd carry with her for the rest of her life. "Promise me something. Never stay anywhere your worth gets treated like a joke." She didn't fully understand it then. She would understand it completely 22 years later, standing in a wedding dress. When her father passed away suddenly, her mother became chairwoman of the company, and Claire, quietly, privately, became the majority shareholder. Lawyers handled it discreetly. Her name was buried in legal filings under a private trust. To the outside world, she remained exactly what she'd always been. Just Claire, a project coordinator, nobody special. She didn't want the spotlight. She didn't want anyone chasing her for what she was worth on paper. She wanted to know, really know, who would treat her well when they believed. She had nothing to offer, she was about to find out, and the answer would nearly destroy her. His name was Ethan. 31, sharp suits, the kind of charm that made strangers feel like old friends within minutes. They'd met at a charity event over a year earlier. He'd told her she was refreshingly normal, that she wasn't like the fake rich kids he usually met at these things. He had no idea he was talking to the real thing. For months, Claire let herself believe she'd found something rare, a man who liked her for exactly who she appeared to be. No agenda, no status chasing, just her. Her phone buzzed, a photo from Ethan, an office party, his arm slung around a group of colleagues. Standing closest to him, just a little too close, was a woman with perfect hair and sharp eyes. The caption read, "Wish you were here, Claire. They all think we're the perfect couple." The woman's name was Vanessa, Ethan's coworker, always in his stories about late nights at the office. Claire zoomed in without meaning to. Vanessa's hand wasn't just near Ethan's back. It was resting against it. The kind of touch that knew exactly where it belonged. Her phone rang. It was Lily, her best friend since high school, a nurse, and the only person outside Claire's family who knew the truth about who she really was. "You ready to be Mrs. Ethan Cole?" Lily teased. "Or do I need to come rescue you?" Claire laughed it off. But Lily, ever perceptive, went quiet for a moment. "Just remember," she said gently, "the people who talk about status the most are usually the ones who will use anyone to climb. Keep your eyes open, okay?" Claire promised she would. She had no idea how soon she'd need to. The Cole family home was the kind of place that tried very hard to look important. Old portraits, heavy curtains, a long dining table set for a celebration that for Claire would feel more like an interrogation. Linda Cole, Ethan's mother, looked Claire up and down the second she walked in. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "So this is Claire," she said. "You have such simple taste. Dear, it's refreshing. The word simple would come up again, and again, and again. Richard Cole, Ethan's father, ran the family firm, and the firm was in the middle of negotiating what he called the biggest opportunity this family has ever had, a potential partnership with a major investment group. He didn't ask if Claire had heard of them. Why would he? She looked like nobody. The company's name was Adams Holdings, Claire's maiden name. She sat there, calm, polite, while Richard waved off questions about her family's work. Investments, everyone plays with numbers these days. And Linda asked, with poorly disguised disdain, whether Claire's parents would be gifting anything for the engagement, even if it's small. Jason, Ethan's younger brother, made a joke about Claire not knowing which fork to use. Everyone laughed. Ethan laughed, too. Then Claire excused herself to find the bathroom and passed Richard's study on the way. The door was half open. She heard Vanessa's voice first, low and amused. She's sweet, but do you really see yourself with her once your firm goes big league? And then Ethan's voice, quiet, certain. One thing at a time. Let's lock in the partnership first. Claire stood frozen in the hallway, her hand on the doorframe, her heart pounding so loud she could barely think. She had come to this dinner believing it was about family, about love. She was starting to understand it might be about something else entirely. The reception was everything a wedding should be. Music, laughter, champagne catching the light, and in the middle of it, in a white dress she'd chosen with so much hope, Claire stood frozen for one breath too long, like she just realized she was standing on a stage, and she had no idea yet that it was about to become a stage for her undoing. The photographer called the bridal party together for photos, and then, without missing a beat, Linda waved Vanessa into the frame. Come in too! You're practically part of the family at the firm. Vanessa slid into place beside Ethan like she belonged there. A guest at the next table leaned over to her friend and whispered, just loud enough for Claire to hear, honestly, that coworker looks more like the real bride than she does. Then came the toasts. Jason went first. Let's talk about Claire, he said, grinning. The sweetest girl with the most modest upbringing I've ever seen. Honestly, when I first met her, she froze at the table because she didn't know which fork to use. Laughter. But hey, she's learning. Slowly, Ethan rubbed his forehead. Embarrassed. He didn't say a word. Then Linda. Oh, Claire, she said, voice dripping with warmth that didn't match her eyes. You may not come from money like some. Her gaze flicked just for a second toward Vanessa, but you bring a good heart. And that matters too. A guest near the back murmured, backhanded much? Claire looked at Ethan, pleaded with him silently. Say something, anything. He gave her a tight, awkward smile and stayed silent. Then Vanessa took the microphone. Sleek dress, easy confidence. I guess it's my turn to congratulate the man I've worked with for years, she said, throwing Ethan a knowing look. And don't worry, Claire, I only get him during office hours. 9 to 5 is mine, after all. Some guests laughed, some winced. Several looked over at Claire, just to see how she'd react. She smiled, because that's what she'd always done. At a side table, Lily quietly lifted her phone and started recording. She'd seen enough to know that someday somebody might need proof, not memory proof, of exactly what happened in that room. Claire slipped away toward the cake table, and that's when she heard Richard and Linda, just a few feet away, talking to a small circle of guests like she wasn't even there. Once the Adams Holdings partnership is signed, Richard was saying, our firm finally becomes a major player. Ethan made this happen. Linda laughed softly. After that, we'll help them into a proper house. Maybe polish Claire up a bit. She doesn't realize yet how lucky she is. Poor thing would never see this kind of life without Ethan. Claire's hand found the edge of the table and gripped it. Richard pulled a folded document from his jacket, partnership notes, and there it was, the Adams Holdings logo. 3 metal lines fanning upward, the same logo she had grown up seeing on her father's office wall. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Final signing scheduled tomorrow at 10 a.m. We still need your signature as majority shareholder. If anything doesn't feel right with the Cole family, you can walk away. No deal is worth our name. Walk away. Behind her, more laughter. Jason, again, making a joke about Claire's education. Claire stared at her phone, and somewhere in the back of her mind, a single thought rose up, quiet but absolutely clear. If this is how they treat the girl they think is powerless, what will they do when they find out who she really is? Claire pushed through the bathroom door like the air outside had turned poisonous. The music and laughter faded behind her. She gripped the edges of the sink and looked at herself in the mirror. Her dress was smudged from too many forced hugs. Her lipstick was blurred from holding back words she didn't dare say out loud. This was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. Instead, she felt like she'd walked willingly into a trap. The door opened. Lily slipped in and locked it behind her. Claire, she said softly, this isn't okay. What they did out there, that wasn't teasing, that was disrespect. Claire didn't answer. She just stared at her reflection. Lily held up her phone. I recorded some of it. I didn't plan to. But when Jason started, I had a bad feeling. You need to hear what they sound like from the outside. She hesitated, then nodded. The first clip played. Jason's voice, tinny through the phone speaker. She didn't even know which fork to use, but she's learning, bless her. Laughter. Then Linda. She may not bring money, but at least she brings a good heart. Then one more. This one from near the bar, a moment when Claire had stepped away to greet relatives. Ethan's voice, slightly flushed, talking to someone off camera. Vanessa beside him. Claire, she's sweet innocent. She thinks she understands wealth. But once this partnership hits, she'll finally see real luxury. And Vanessa laughing, you're too good to her. She's lucky you chose her. Claire's hand flew to her mouth. The tears came freely now, not from the jokes at the reception, but from this. From hearing, in his own voice, when he thought no one who mattered was listening, exactly what her husband actually thought of her. Lily squeezed her shoulder. You deserve better. Claire, you deserve someone who defends you even when you're not in the room. For a long moment, neither of them spoke, and then something in Claire shifted. Quietly, permanently, she wiped her tears. Slow, steady movements. She straightened her dress. Her hands stopped shaking. A thought rose in her mind, steady like her father's voice. They weren't laughing at my dress or my parents. They were laughing at the woman they thought could never walk away. She lifted her chin, pulled out her phone, called her mother. Stop the signing tomorrow, she said, her voice calm and absolute. Put everything on hold. Tell Mr. Grant I'll come in myself to explain why. She hung up and looked at her reflection one more time. She didn't look wounded anymore. She looked awake the next morning, clerked into Adams Holdings headquarters, wearing a simple dark blouse and tailored trousers, hair pulled back. No wedding dress, no ring. Just the faint redness around her eyes from a night she'd barely survived. But the moment she stepped through those doors, the white marble, the quiet hum of the building, the company logo etched into glass, something in her straightened. This was her world, her father's world, her name. In the conference room, her mother Margaret sat waiting, along with the family's longtime lawyer, a senior board member, and a compliance officer. Folders were already laid out. Overnight, the team had pulled together everything, the financial reality of Cole and Partners, their overdependence on this single deal, and most importantly, Lily's recordings, now saved and reviewed. They were never seeing you, Margaret told her gently. They were seeing access. Claire looked at the documents, at the ethics policy, at the clause that had sat quietly under her name since the day her father died, the clause that gave her, and only her, the power to walk away from any deal that posed a reputational, ethical, or cultural risk. I don't want revenge, Claire said quietly. I don't want headlines. I just don't want the Adams name tied to people who think that way about others. Or about me. There was one more thing. Lily had found something else. A family group chat Claire had been added to weeks earlier for wedding logistics. A chat she'd muted almost immediately. A chat the Cole family had completely forgotten she could read. Scrolling back through it, the messages were unmistakable. Ethan. Marrying Claire is strategic. She's connected to investments, whether she realizes it or not. Once everything lines up, we're in. Richard, exactly. Once Adams approves the partnership, our firm levels up. Linda, she's plain, but at least she won't challenge you. Better than someone like Vanessa, too opinionated. Vanessa, don't worry. I know my role. Just don't forget who's been next to you in the grind. And then, the line that would echo through everything that came next. Ethan, once we're locked in with Adams, we can restructure things so Claire doesn't have so much say. If she even has any, she's pliable. She trusts me. Pliable. Claire stared at the word for a long moment. Her father's voice rose in her memory. Never stay where your worth is treated like a joke. Save it, she said quietly. Send it to Mr. Grant. A knock at the door. An assistant stepped in, Miss Adams. The Cole family has arrived for the final review and signing. They're waiting in the summit room. Claire stood. We're not finished, she told Lily and the lawyer. We're just changing the audience. The Cole family walked into the summit room expecting a celebration. Richard pushed through first, smug, already talking about shopping for a new house. Linda followed, necklace gleaming, smile already arranged into victory. Jason trailed behind, curious, and Ethan walked in beside Vanessa, not quite touching, but close enough that anyone could guess how close they'd become. They stopped the moment they saw the room. This wasn't a celebration. It was a formal review, a long table, Adams Holdings board on one side, and at the head of the table, where a chairperson would sit, was Claire. No wedding dress. A dark tailored suit, hair pulled back calm. In front of her a nameplate, Claire Adams, majority shareholder. Her wedding ring sat on the table beside a closed folder, not on her hand. Claire, Richard said, forcing a chuckle. What are you doing up there? Ethan's brows knit together. I thought you said you worked in one of the smaller branches. Margaret spoke first, calm and even. She does. She chose to. That doesn't change who she is. The senior board member added, Claire Adams is the majority shareholder of Adams Holdings and holds final approval on this partnership. The words landed like a slap. Linda's smile faltered. Vanessa's jaw tightened. Jason leaned back, suddenly very interested in a show he hadn't paid for. Ethan just stared. You're the majority? Claire, why didn't you? To see how you'd treat someone you thought had nothing to offer, Claire said softly. Richard tried to recover. Look, this is clearly some internal matter. We were told this was a final review before signing. It is, the lawyer said. This is the review. Claire tapped a key. The screen behind her lit up. First, Jason's toast, his own voice, echoing back at him. She didn't even know which fork to use, but she's learning. Slowly, Jason shifted in his seat. It was just a joke, he muttered. Then Linda's toast. She may not bring money, but at least she brings a good heart. That was taken out of context, Linda snapped. It was a toast. Everyone knew I was just. The next slide cut her off. The group chat. Enlarged, unmissable. Ethan, maturing Claire is strategic, Richard. Once Adams approves the partnership, our firm levels up. Linda. She's plain, but at least she won't challenge you. Those were private messages. Richard snapped. You can't. You added me to that chat, Claire said quietly, to send rehearsal details. You just assumed I wouldn't read anything else. One final slide. The word that started it all, glowing on the screen for everyone to see. She's pliable. She trusts me. Ethan's face went white. I didn't mean. You meant it enough to type it, Claire said. She turned off the projector. The room dimmed. She folded her hands. Based on your conduct, she said, her voice slow and clear, and under the terms of our ethics policy, I've made my decision regarding the partnership. Every eye in the room fixed on her. Adams Holdings is formally withdrawing from the billion-dollar partnership with Cole and Partners. For a moment, the room didn't move. Then everything happened at once. Chairs scraped back. Papers rustled. Linda's hand flew to her mouth. Richard surged to his feet so fast his chair toppled. You can't do that. We have assigned. You have a non-binding letter of intent, the lawyer said calmly. Subject to final board approval. You were informed of this in writing. We've told our investors, Richard shouted. We've hired staff, expanded the office. Claire, this will destroy us. Margaret stood slowly. You destroyed your own credibility, she said. We simply declined to fund it. Linda turned on Ethan. What did you say in that chat? What did you do? But Ethan wasn't looking at his mother. He was staring at Claire. Claire, you're Adams as in... That Adams? You're the no, she said softly. I'm the woman you humiliated and underestimated. An assistant stepped quietly into the room and handed Ethan a sealed envelope. He opened it with numb hands. A formal notice of intent to dissolve the marriage. Linda rounded on Claire one more time. You're ending his marriage and his career in the same breath? Do you know what this will do to us? You're not sorry you did it, Margaret said quietly. You're sorry you did it to the wrong person. Claire gathered her folder and stood. I'm protecting the Adams name, she said. And I'm choosing myself. She walked toward the door. Ethan called after her. She didn't look back. Ethan caught up to her in the hallway, grabbing her wrist. Not with force, with desperation. Claire, wait. You can't just destroy my family over some jokes. You're overreacting. If I had known who you were. Exactly, Claire said quietly. If you had known who I was, you would have treated me differently. Your parents would have. Vanessa wouldn't have dared. Jason would have swallowed his jokes. You all would have performed respect instead of feeling it. Claire, I love you, Ethan said, voice cracking. I was stressed. My parents were pressuring me. Vanessa was just flirting. I didn't. No, she said. You didn't. Down the hall, Vanessa had stepped out too, frozen, clearly realizing this was not a conversation to walk into. I wanted a husband who would defend me even when I had nothing, Claire continued, her voice gentle but unshakable. Someone who stood beside me because of who I am, not what my last name is worth. But you defended your comfort, your image, your silence, and your billion-dollar dream. You defended everything, except me. I didn't cheat on you, Ethan said weakly. You didn't have to, Claire replied. You let someone else feel more entitled to your side than your own wife did. She pulled the wedding ring from her pocket. She'd never put it back on, and placed it gently in his open palm. Claire, I forgive you, Ethan, she said. He looked up, hope flickering. Not for you, for me. I don't want to carry this anger for the rest of my life. The hope died as fast as it came. But forgiveness, she added quietly, doesn't mean I stay. She turned and walked away, heels clicking in a steady rhythm down the polished hallway. She didn't look back. That evening, Claire sat wrapped in a blanket on her couch when Lily called. You need to see this. A headline glowed on the screen. Adams Holdings walks away from billion-dollar deal over ethics concerns. Sources cite disrespect toward key shareholder. The comments were already filling up. Who insults a major shareholder at her own wedding? Imagine throwing away a billion-dollar deal for ego. Team Claire, even if we don't know who she is. They don't know it's you, Lily said softly, but they know someone like you exists. Weeks later, Claire walked through one of the company's development facilities, not as a visitor, but as someone who belonged. She stopped to help a young engineer with a project, pointing out a detail that would save money without cutting corners. The woman's face lit up. From a distance, Margaret watched. She grown stronger, she said. She stopped apologizing for her worth, the lawyer replied. In a bright meeting room, Claire and Lily worked on something new, a pilot program. Legal support for women leaving financially controlling relationships. Career counseling. Workshops on recognizing red flags before the wedding, not after. Do you know how many people this is going to help? Lily asked, eyes shining. That's the point, Claire said. I can't change what happened to me, but I can help someone else walk away sooner than I did. Across town, in a cramped office with peeling paint, Ethan sat at his desk. The family firm had survived, barely. Downsized, merged, the grand expansion never came. On his screen, an article. Adams Holdings majority shareholder praised for ethical stand. Industry calls it a new standard. A photo of Claire at a panel discussion, calm, confident, speaking about integrity in business. On the corner of his desk sat a small velvet ring box. He opened it. The wedding ring sat inside, unused. A circle that never completed its promise. He closed the box. In a sunlit cafe, Vanessa posed for a photo with a new man. Relaxed, ordinary, nothing to do with finance. She posted it with a simple caption, learning to choose character over connections. She never mentioned Ethan's name again. In the Cole family's once grand living room, expensive art had quietly started disappearing from the walls. Richard paced with the phone pressed to his ear, explaining for the 100th time that they were restructuring. Linda sat with a tablet in her lap, reading the same headline over and over. We thought she was nothing, she whispered. No one answered. Back at Adams Holdings, Claire stepped out onto a terrace at sunset. The city stretched beneath her. Cranes, towers, a million people who would never know her story. Only the headline version. She thought about everything that had happened, and one truth settled over her, clear as glass. I didn't ruin them. I just stopped funding people who laughed at my worth. She turned, almost as if speaking to someone watching from far away. If someone only respects you when they find out what you're worth on paper, walk away before they spend your value like it belongs to them. If this story meant something to you, if it reminded you of someone, or maybe even a piece of yourself, let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this one, make sure you're subscribed, because we've got a lot more coming.